Hi friends, good morning. Welcome to Shankaran AI Study Circle. This is Dr. Harinath Reddy, Director of the Institute. Today in this particular video, we will try to discuss about the election of President. And before that, Part 5 of the Indian Constitution deals with the Union Government. Part 5 deals with Union Government. In Part 5, Chapter 1, from Articles 52 to 78 deal with the Union Executive. Part 5 deals with the Union Government. Within Part 5 there are several chapters. Chapter 1 deals with the Union Executive from Articles 52 to 78. Then the Union Executive is composed of the President, Vice President, Prime Minister, Council of Ministers and the Attorney General of India. And then the President, he is the head of the Indian nation state. As I told a number of times, India being a parliamentary democracy, in India we had two kinds of executive, nominal executive, a real executive. President forms part of nominal executive and the Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister forms the real executive. So President is part of the nominal executive. The President is the head of the Indian nation state. The President represents not only the Union, he also represents the states. The reason is, in the electoral college which is meant for electing the President of India, we had elected members of Parliament and also the elected members of the legislative assemblies in the states and the Union territories. That's the reason why we say he not only represents the Union, but he also represents the states. In addition to this, with respect to the election of the President, if you see the Constituent Assembly debates, in the Constituent Assembly, people like K.T. Shah, H.V. Kamath, they argued for the direct election of the President. So K.T. Shah and H.V. Kamath, they argued for the direct election of the President through universal adult franchise. If this is done, it will be against the principles of parliamentary democracy, because in a parliamentary democracy, the President who acts as the head of the Indian nation state shall be a nominal executive but not a real executive. So as India had a parliamentary democracy, the real executive is the Prime Minister heading the Council of Ministers. It goes against the principles of parliamentary democracy. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Nehru, they argued for a President who had a nominal executive, and so by a majority of the members of the Constituent Assembly, they opposed direct election of the President on the ground that it will not be in harmony with the principles of parliamentary democracy. In addition to this, in the Constituent Assembly, there was one more suggestion that the President shall be elected by members of the Parliament alone. Even this was rejected because a President who is chosen by the members of the political party, a President who is chosen by the members of the Parliament will be a President who belongs to the political party which is in power at the Union level. He may not genuinely represent the interests of the states as well along with the Union. So finally, a decision was taken that the President of India shall be elected by an electoral college consisting of the elected members of the Parliament and elected members of the state legislative assemblies and legislative assemblies in the Union territories like Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu and Kashmir. So with this system of election of the President in place, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, they say that it almost amounts to direct election of the President. It almost amounts to direct election of the President. Then, if you see the composition relating to the election of the president. The president is elected by an electoral college. The president is not elected directly. Why the president shall be elected? Because India is a republican constitution. India had a republican constitution. Unlike the British constitution, which provides for a constitutional monarchy, India had a republican constitution. In all the countries with a republican constitution, the head of the nation state shall be elected. It can be direct or indirect. In India, the president is indirectly elected. Whatever, he is elected. Though it is an indirect election, he is elected. So that's why India is a republic. So for the reason that India is a republic, we need to have a president who is elected, and we cannot have a president who is a hereditary. Fine. So if you see the composition of the electoral college, the electoral college to elect the president of India, it contains elected members of parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, elected members of the state legislative assemblies, elected members of the legislative assemblies located in Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu and Kashmir. And remember, the 70th Constitutional Amendment Act, 70th Constitutional Amendment Act has allowed the members of the legislative assemblies in Delhi and Puducherry to participate in the electoral college, which is meant for electing the president of India. So this is done in 1992, came into force in 1997. So before 1992, the members of the legislative assemblies in Delhi and Puducherry do not have a chance to participate in the election of the president. So this is made possible through the 70th Amendment, 70th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992. Then, who don't participate in the election of the president? Who do not participate in the election of the president? So the nominated, the following, they do not participate in the election of the president. The nominated members of the Lok Sabha, earlier we had 2 members representing the Anglo-Indian community nominated by the president. This is done away with through 104th Constitutional Amendment Act. Now in the Lok Sabha we had 543 members, all are elected and we don't have nominated members. Then in the Rajya Sabha we have 12 members nominated by the President of India. They do not participate in the election of the president. Similarly, in all the legislative assemblies, both in the states as well as in the union territories, the nominated members, they do not participate in the election of the president. Similarly, all the members of the legislative councils also do not participate in the election of the president. So I am repeating, the electoral college which is meant for electing the president of India contains elected members of Lok Sabha, elected members of Rajya Sabha, elected members of the legislative assemblies in the states, elected members of the legislative assemblies in the union territories like Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu and Kashmir. And I also told you, it is through the 70th Constitutional Amendment Act, the elected members of the legislative assemblies of Delhi and Puducherry were given a chance to participate in the election of the president. Then who don't participate in the election of the president? Nominated members of Lok Sabha, nominated members of Rajya Sabha, nominated members of the legislative assemblies in the states and union territories, and all the members of the legislative council wherever they are present also do not participate in the election of the president. Then the next question is, if there is any vacancy in the electoral college, for example, in a particular state there is a president rule is in operation, the legislative assembly of that particular state is dissolved, and this results in a vacancy arising in the electoral college. So if there is a vacancy in the electoral college which is meant for electing the president of India, can an election to the office of the president be stalled? No. So even in case if there are vacancies in the electoral college which is meant for electing the president of India, the elections are not stalled. The elections cannot be challenged on the ground that there are vacancies in the electoral college. Remember, the election disputes relating to the office of the president and the vice president, they are decided by the Indian Supreme Court, and the decision of the Supreme Court is final. So there cannot be any election dispute which can be taken before the Supreme Court on the ground that there are vacancies in the electoral college, and so the election of the president cannot be conducted. This is not permitted. Despite vacancies in the electoral college, for any reason, the election of the president cannot be postponed. It must be held. Then the next one, if you see how the vote value of each MLA is calculated, vote value of an MLA, of an elected MLA in any state. This is by using this formula. Total population of the state, this is as per 1971 census, total population of the state divided by total number of elected MLAs into 1 by 1000. So this is the formula through which the vote value of each elected MLA in a particular state is calculated. So the total population of the state in 1971 census divided by the total number of elected MLAs in that particular legislative assembly into 1 by 1000. Then why 1971 census is taken as the criteria? The reason is the present strength of Lok Sabha as well as the legislative assemblies today which we have, it is on the basis of the population census of 1971. So that's the reason why in the election to the President of India, the population census of 1971 is taken. And till 2026, in the elections to the office of the President, the 1971 census is taken, because the number of seats which are given to Lok Sabha, the number of seats in the legislative assemblies were decided on the basis of the population of 1971 census. That's the reason why here the total population of the state means as per the 1971 census. So this is how the value of an elected member of legislative assembly is calculated. Total population of the state divided by total number of elected MLAs into 1 by 1000. Similarly, if you see the vote value of an elected MP, this is calculated by the following way. So the total value of the votes of all the elected MLAs in this country divided by total number of elected MPs. Total number of elected MPs. So the value of the vote of each elected MP will be decided by using this formula. So the total value of the votes of all the elected MLAs divided by the total number of elected MPs will give you the value of the vote of each MP. So the president is elected by a system called a system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. The president is elected by proportional representation by means of a single transferable vote through secret ballot. So in the present system of election to the President of India, in the present system of election to the office of the President of India, there is a parity among the states. Why there is a parity among the states? Because the value of the vote of an MLA, it is decided on the basis of the population of the state. In addition to this, there is also parity among the votes of the union government and all the states together, taken together, because the value of each elected MP is calculated on the basis of the total value of the votes of all the elected MLAs. So this is ensured. What is ensured? Parity of representation between the union and the states, parity of representation among the states. And as I told, the president is elected by means of proportional representation through a single transferable vote. So the word proportional representation is criticized to be a misnomer. The reason is the proportional system of election is taken up only to fill in 2 or more vacancies. The system of proportional representation is usually taken up to fill if the vacancies are more than 2. But here there is a single vacancy, that is the office of the president. So that's why using proportional representation is a misnomer. Then again, single transferable vote. Use of this word term single transferable vote is again a misnomer. The reason being, each member of the electoral college will have plural votes. He will be indicating preferences, as many preferences as the number of candidates to the office of the president. So that's why even a single transferable vote is also a misnomer. Then for the president to be elected, he must get the absolute majority of the total valid votes polled in the election to the president of India. So the total value of polled votes divided by 2 plus 1 will give you the absolute majority of the votes required to get elected as the president. So a person to enter into the office of the president must secure more than 50% of the value of the total valid votes polled in the election to the president. More than 50% of the value of the total valid votes polled in the election to the office of the president of India. And this is calculated by using this formula. Total value of all the valid votes polled divided by 2 plus 1. So this is the required quota of votes for getting elected as the president of India. Then each member of the electoral college will be given a single ballot paper. Each member of the electoral college will be given a single ballot paper. In the single ballot paper, there will be a number of candidates contesting the office of the president. And each member of the electoral college will be giving their preferences. If I were to be a member of the electoral college, I will give the first preference vote to candidate 1, second preference vote to candidate 2, third preference vote to candidate 4, fourth preference vote to candidate 3. So an elector or a member of the electoral college will be indicating as many preferences as the number of candidates who are contesting in the election to the office of the president. In the first instance, the first preference votes of all the candidates who contested will be counted. And in the first instance, if a candidate who contested to the office of the president gets this absolute majority of the value of the total valid votes polled, then he is declared elected. In case if a candidate doesn't get the absolute majority of the value of the total valid votes polled in the first preference votes, then the candidate who is at the bottom in terms of the first preference votes will be taken away from the list, and the second preference votes of the bottom candidate will be distributed among the remaining candidates, and this is continued till the required quota of the votes are obtained. So here Neelam Sanjeev Reddy is the only one presidential candidate who got elected without a contest, and it is V.V. Giri who was elected as the president by counting the second preference votes. So that's it about the election of the President of India. Thank you.